You're going to hear it once or twice or three times, and probably already have, and maybe 100 more in the next few days. Alabama, Clemson, Part 4. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the big game, the national championship tilt between the Tide and the Tigers. We've got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line. Stephen, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, man. Happy New Year to you, Mark. How'd your Christmas go?
The Christmas was nice. I still have the tree up. The story is that, my daughter's been in college for 2 years. So she is my main decorator. We have a big time baking and decorating. And in the past, we would do this like the weekend after Thanksgiving. But she's in school and away from home until about December 20th. So I don't want her to miss out, and I need her to help me decorate and get a tree, so we don't get this thing up until like the 22nd or 23rd now, and so I'm going to keep it up a little bit longer.
Nothing like getting the full use of that tree.
Absolutely. All right, Stephen. Alabama extends your season each and every year by extension of you covering the team and them always virtually going to the national championship game. And here they are once again, #1, undefeated, could complete the championship run in undefeated fashion here for one of the few times under Nick Saban. So before we look ahead to a monster matchup with Clemson, your thoughts about the Oklahoma game? Of course, the two teams didn't appear to belong on the same field for the first quarter when it was 28-0, and then Oklahoma made a mad dash to make it a little bit interesting, but never really in doubt.
Well, first and foremost, Mark, you look at Tua Tagovailoa in the football game. I know a lot of people prior to the matchup had him listed as 80 to 85% healthy with that left ankle, but this is a young man, the sophomore, that played in a full 100% clip and was darn near flawless. 24 of 27 passing, 316 yards and 4 touchdowns. This was the 6th time this season in which Tagovailoa had a game in which he accounted for at least 300 yards passing with 4 scoring tosses. So he had a big moment. Josh Jacobs came into this matchup with a lot to prove, a lot to show, seeing how he's from the Tulsa, Oklahoma area, and the Sooners did not offer him a scholarship until after Alabama approached him first late in the process, and it was a personal thing for him. Had 158 all-purpose yards, and the score of all of the wide receivers for the Crimson Tide stepped up, but one in particular, Devontae Smith, of whom a lot of people keep forgetting. I mean, here's the guy that caught the game-winning touchdown pass in 2017 against Mississippi State. He came back in the national championship game against Georgia, had the big 41-yard game-winning touchdown catch, and then comes back against Oklahoma and does nothing but catch 6 passes, a team high, for 104 yards with a 10-yard touchdown reception. So offensively, Alabama did what it had to do. And on defense, give a Tide credit in terms of that first half, keeping Kyler Murray corralled, keeping the Sooners offense off balance. Oklahoma only putting up 10 points in that first half. You mentioned did all it could, Lincoln Riley and the group, to make it interesting as of late. Kyler Murray finally trusted himself to throw the football during the latter portion of that game, but Alabama offensively and defensively just finding a way to get the job done at 45-34 at Hard Rock Stadium, and a very warm and sweating Stephen M. Smith at Hard Rock Stadium as the temperature was crazy.
So you don't expect that even in Miami in January. Typically you get just perfect football weather. It's in the 60s, especially it being a night game. But yeah, the announcer crew was certainly pointing out that fact and the toll that it was taking on the two teams, and apparently you as well. But we'll focus more on the teams. And you led me right into my next point, Stephen, because even though the outcomes were much different, I likened what I saw out of Alabama's defense in the second half, similar to what happened to them against Clemson in 2016, in which they came out on fire, just dominating Clemson up front and all over Deshaun Watson and taking a 14-0 lead and just burying him. And he just had no space to run, to move, to throw, to do anything. And then it appeared as though they got a little bit worn down. And the Clemson offense got in sync, started to get into a rhythm, kept the Alabama defense on the field, started to wear them out. And obviously that resulted in a loss. This time around, just too big of a lead, too much offensive firepower for Alabama to continue to score, for Oklahoma to catch up. But in this game, I saw a similar something out of Alabama where they just were devastating, just suffocating early, but maybe got a little bit gassed in the second half trying to keep up with the Sooners.
Well, that, and then also, Mark, you look at the middle mistakes, the penalties. There were a lot of moments in that game where, offensively, Alabama could have been up 35-10 at halftime instead of 31-10, but Jedrick Wills, the very talented sophomore right tackle, had 3 back-to-back penalties on a particular drive before halftime, which killed that drive. And on top of that, there were some moments on defense to where Alabama caught out of sorts in the wrong place at the wrong time, and some penalties there defensively. And then the freshman Patrick Surtain at cornerback, who had had a great year leading up to this point, a freshman All-American from the Southeastern Conference and the Associated Press, but Oklahoma put its biggest, most physical body on him, C.D. Lamb, and somebody that's going to be a first-round pick or a high draft pick in the upcoming venue. And C.D. Lamb had a big-time game, over 100 yards receiving. There were a couple of times where he did push off, but established position, and Kyler Murray threw a perfect ball, and they got the job done on that end. So it wasn't just really Alabama wearing down physically due to the heat mark, but a lot of those middle mistakes crept in, penalties crept in, and Oklahoma attacking that matchup of C.D. Lamb on Patrick Surtain for much of the night.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, on the line with Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama. The Tide, of course, over the Sooners, 45-34, and another date with Clemson, a dominant win for the Tigers over Notre Dame, 30-3. Stephen, don't know if you had a whole lot of opportunity to see the Clemson Notre Dame game. I'm sure you will watch it a number of times from a number of different perspectives and trying to evaluate the Tigers and their latest effort. Your thoughts about this Clemson football team?
This is a good football team. This is a very electric football team. Offensively, we're talking about the number 5 scoring offense in the country and putting up 45.5 points per game. One of the better total offenses in the country at 530 yards a game. And it starts with Trevor Lawrence, the 6'6", 216-pounder of Cartersville, Georgia. He has really given this program a shot in the arm after Kenny Bryant decided to transfer out. Does a great job protecting the football. We're looking at 27 touchdowns to just 4 picks of the ACC Offensive Player of the Year. But despite how good he is, and he is good, Clemson's offense starts smart in the run game. Travis Etienne's a home run hitting back, 1,572 yards, 22 scores. When he gets the open space, it is very hard to bring that young man down. And they complement him well with Tavian Feaster, who's got 6 rushing touchdowns. Adam Choice has 7. Combined, they have 13. This is the Clemson bunch that's 9th in the country in running the football, averaging 259.8 yards a game. So when you look at Clemson, they're balanced in the passing game, they're balanced in the rushing attack, and despite the fact that you got T. Higgins and Hunter Renfrow, 2 very elite receivers, Justin Ross is somebody of interest because here's a guy that Alabama heavily courted in the 2018 recruiting cycle, did not get him, but they heavily courted this young man out of Phoenix City, Alabama. And Justin Ross this year, over 800 yards receiving with, I want to say, 6 or 8 touchdowns this year, and a guy that can get up, elevate, and snatch the football. So it all starts with Trevor Lawrence calling the shots, but this is a balanced team in the run and pass attack.
And Justin Ross, obviously a guy that, as you mentioned, Alabama coveted in the recruiting process, and Notre Dame just did not have an answer for his size, speed, and athleticism downfield when this game really got out of hand after Notre Dame had played Clemson toe-to-toe for about a quarter and a half at 3-3. It was just the explosive plays in the passing game for Clemson that just proved to be the difference as they took a commanding halftime lead. Very interesting and also unusual that two programs maintain this kind of status in college football, come back the next year to play in a national championship game just 1 year after playing in the postseason last year against each other with two completely different starting quarterbacks with two completely different skill sets, talking the Hurts to Tagovailoa transition, and then also, of course, Kelly Bryant to Trevor Lawrence.
And it's incredible seeing how the transition's been made, Mark, because no offense at all to Jalen Hurts and Kelly Bryant. We're talking two guys that are very athletic runners, guys that make improvements in the passing game. When you look at this day and age in college football, the receivers are bigger, the receivers are faster, they're physical. They want to get the ball in their hands and make big-time plays. When you have guys like Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa, the anticipation is different. The flick of the wrist is different. The observance of studying defenses and breaking down defenses and pre- and post-snap reads, it's all different. And both of these guys have the arm talent to be next-level quarterbacks in the National Football League. But right now, with both of these guys in college, they are two very prime, very successful prospects. So when you have two guys that can throw the football the way these two do and put it in different spots all over the field and allow their guys or leave their guys into opportunities to make plays, there's no counterbalance for that. You can try to plan for that. You can try to scheme for that. You can try to prepare yourself and put yourself in position to defend that for defensive minds out there. But when you see it in person and when you see it effective, it's something to look at, and it's something very difficult to scheme for.
Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama on the line with us to talk Alabama football. And of course, the Tide and the Tigers get it on for a fourth consecutive year in the postseason for the national championship. Stephen, we appreciate you stopping by as always. Hopefully we will have maybe one more breakdown session with you talking Clemson football as these two greats in college football get back together.
No problem, Mark. I appreciate you having me on. And hey, don't let nobody stop you from getting all the use out that Christmas tree.
We won't do it. We don't listen to anyone, regardless of the critics. When it comes to college football talk, I am true to myself. And when it comes to Christmas tree shopping and decoration, I can't let anyone sway me there as well.
All right, my man. You have a great one.
You too, Stephen. All right, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Have a good night.